conversation with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. You tried to convince me it was all in my head, and I felt like it's that you was me instead. Hey, I wanted to rock with you, roll with you. Said you was my baby girl, then you left me too. Everything was kosher, perfect like a poster. Then I got word that you wanna leave a picture. Off with somebody else, off with the jerk. With the shame on me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a... Lately I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself, cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead.
To another edition of the Topics right here on Real Entertainment Network. I want to say good evening to Oli and Layamiga. We now know as Nevis and St. Kitts. Those are the names that were given by our indigenous people, Oli and Layamiga. I think they're the only two words that we still have as a remnant from that past. Want to say good evening to all the folks who are logged on throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean, Antigua, Dominica, Barbuda, Montserrat, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, Dominica, Jamaica, Trinidad, wherever you are throughout the region. Folks locked in, whether it's in the US, Canada, Taiwan, Sri Lanka. Doesn't matter wherever you are at this time. It's a pleasure to have you locked in here on another edition of the Topics on Real Entertainment Network. I want to say a special good evening to the usual folks who log on via our Facebook feed or YouTube, and we are also available on Twitch TV. Whichever one you choose to comment on, there's a possibility that your comment may show up in the feed right here, but most times we pay more attention to the Facebook feed while we are live. So we do pay attention to the comments, and we would respond to the comments accordingly on our platform. So this is not one of the platforms where we ignore the comments of our followers. We do, give credence to the comments. This evening we have with us Banky Shaba's King, who is our usual host, and we do have a bit of feminine energy in this space this evening, and we do have a special guest host with us in the personality of Mrs. Janet there on Nevis as well. And so we are looking forward to engaging you and getting into a very interesting edition of the topics here for this edition. Now, Banky, we're gonna do it a little bit different this evening because we have the female energy in, and so they say in the quote unquote gentleman's world, we'll put the ladies first, right? So we're going to have Janet give her introduction and introductory speech, and then we're going to take a little bit of time and introduce Banky, and then later on, Janet, we will get into the topics, right? So you take a minute or two to introduce yourself and let the people know a little bit about you, and then we will do the same for Banky, and then we get into the topics. So good evening and welcome to our platform, Real Entertainment Network. and we are looking forward to having a very engaging discussion, and look forward to some very strong inputs from you this evening. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and a special good evening to my Nivision family. My name is Janet Nisbet Meloni, affectionately known as Cindy, and I want to thank you for giving me a few moments of your time. Tonight, I'm here as your brother, your sister, your neighbor, and a fellow Nivision and a fellow universal person. And I'm here because, well, tonight my topic will mostly be about Nevis and who we are. So I'm here because I love my country deeply, and I know that you do too. And I guess you will be hearing more from me later.
All right. Thank you very much. And we do look forward to engaging in that discussion. Banky, welcome to another edition of the topics. Welcome this evening again. Looking forward to your engagement as well.
Yes, greetings, Yason, and greetings to our guest, Cindy. Greatly appreciate you coming on board and being a part of the topics. I know, I mean, your family and friends should be tuning in and see what the topic of the discussion going to be about this evening. So let me say good evening to the folks in Oli and Liamiga, also the folks in the neighboring islands, Saban Station, St. Bart, St. Martin, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the BVI. Not forgetting the folks over in Montserrat, which is something I miss being at Indian Castle. I used to be there, listening a lot of Montserrat radio station and get a lot of updates on what's going on over there. Beautiful place. Also the folks of Antigua and Barbuda and Bermuda, also the folks in the whole diaspora from North America straight up to Canada and down to the Florida Keys, and also folks over in Europe and Asia, Africa, and our students studying, especially in agriculture in Costa Rica and stuff like that. So whatever it is, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, whichever is appropriate, you greatly appreciate the guys taking out your time being a part of the topics, because the time zone is different in many places. So it shows that you all have an interest in the Real Entertainment Network media. So looking forward for the discussion as usual, and glad to always have a female energy around. So I feel good about the way forward. So, yeah, son.
All right. And yeah, we're really looking forward to another edition of the topics here. Couple of things on the agenda, and we are gonna be pretty open. This is how we do it here, Cindy. It's a very open platform, so just feel comfortable, feel at home. It's just what we would call, well, we're cutting out the con business, so we ain't calling it a conversation. It's a true versation. We're just gonna be having
Okay.
a true versation. So feel free. It's just like we all from Nevis, and we just meet up, and we're gonna have a little, well, in Rasta we would say reasoning. We have a little
Reasoning. Yes, I.
reasoning. Yeah, so that's the kind of format. So you don't feel like you have to be all that formal and all that. No, we just keep it real here. So we're
Sorry.
gonna get into a couple of things, but since you are our special guest, what we're gonna do, we're gonna give you a chance to present at least the first topic, and put that first topic on the agenda. Then we can have a little discussion around that, and then we begin putting some other things on the agenda. So we're going to give you that opportunity to, put that burning topic to the public, and then we would have some feedback on that.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Well, that's what I know you as. I hope you don't mind me calling you Troy.
Hey, he didn't line.
The funny thing is, the funny thing is,
Sure.
a lot of people, and that was one of the things. That was one of the things that I went through a lot, because my name was unique, and so I used to get all kind of name. People call me Shane, people call me Sean, people call me Troy. But
And I call you Troy.
my name was Shoy. You see, it was totally different. So that's what I'm saying. People call me all kind of different names. So it was Shoy. But I have changed that. So legally, my name is Yason Tafari. That's my legal name right now. Yason Tafari.
Your
So
son
if you want to use
Tafari.
Tafari, wonderful. So yeah, but no
Tafari.
problem. I don't have a problem with people calling me by that name. When I do hear people call me Shy, I know you have to be somebody who know me from school days or
Yes,
way
sir.
back. And I am not one who have an issue with it. So I would not get offended. So even though you were calling me Troy, that's why I never really corrected either because I got so
Yeah.
accustomed to it that I just never corrected people. I
You
just
never call it
left it as
people
that.
shy.
Right. I just left it
No,
as that.
no
So
way we call it shy for real, shy. Yeah.
but anyway, yeah, go ahead with the conversation. No
Um,
problem at all.
my topic is basically a love letter to Nevis and who we are as a Nivijan people. Um, and I want to know what y'all think about we as Nivijans. And to me, Nivijans are the heartbeat of this island, and we are the ones who stood tall through rough times and still love our country. So I want to say big up to my Nivijan people who build this country. For me, Nevis is more than an island. It's a people, it's a spirit, and it's a way of life. I was raised in a time when we didn't have much, but we had each other. We know how to share, even if it was just a piece of cornfish, a piece of coal to light your neighbor fire, or a piece of pumpkin or two potato. But we knew how to share, and that is where I will start on who we are as Nivijan, and I'll let you all comment at this point in time as to what you all think about we as a Nivijan people.
Any comment, Banky?
Well, I mean, as we're coming from way back, because as we are not just Nivisions, we are ancient people. You know what I'm saying? We are just yes, we have been traveling the globe from since ever civilization and coming out of the enslavement or people have way back then can we still have people living 100 years 90 years so they've seen a lot way back in the 30s them in the 80s who born in 1938 them time in the 80s them who born in the 20s in the 40s. I mean, I've been one of the elders. I'm one of the elders, especially. So me growing up in the 80s, just like both of you born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s. Kodak Road used to hold the light post in Kodak Road. We didn't have any current in our house. We just like lamp and going to school. We didn't have all this computer and all these smartphones. We used to go to the library to share a biology book, to do our SBAs and all this different stuff in the at high school. We used to have the typewriter with these huggings them. When they type and they swing it back across, boom. Then they start again, they come down, you know, the ink. I mean, these are the era we grew up in with the Donkey Kong game and the Atari game and the outside bathrooms and heading water before you go to school, filling up all these couples and then the water throw away. So we understand, we see it grow, we see when the fourth season come, and how
Yes.
Penny's Beach, when it goes straight up to dress up with all them Uncle Carlton come in, I grew up around a fishing environment and agricultural environment, so I grew up in Kodak Road, going up to dress up by Jackie. I mean, we've been here on the radio for over 5 years, and my story, I mean, is like you over here, it's the same over and over. And the Saturdays, I have to go over to dress up by Uncle Jad, which is Jackie and Amethyst, them father, which is my
My,
grandmother brother. So I'm always over, so I know Diora and the Pembertons and Angela and all of them because that's the era. And then I have to go up to Barnes, got a son do it, my grandmother by Antanji, Bash and Judith and all them because that's their mother, mom, their grandmother is my grandfather's sister. So I see in those days, and so my children hear me talk about all the time. I mean, how privileged they are, and don't have to go to school and all this head water and go to the bathroom and frog and cockroach and kitchen outside and just you understand. I mean, you and your siblings they have to share a small room and not, but you're happy. You never see these things as anything like your poverty or you feel shame because it was normal around you. You see what I mean? Yet might have some people have the wall house or whatever and things you consider that was big then. When you grew up there, so weird. And that makes you start what is big is like it blow your mind. So you wonder, well, but it's just opportunities, eh? And we now see the environment change where, oh wait, you could have called the one who was here on the island. the Robinson and them in the town area in charge of being involved with the Alexander Hamilton and museum and stuff like that. So you could have the one Caucasian who was around and stuff like that. Those non-natives, you know them. They don't stop in Little Mini, and that was Nevis was Nevis. Nevis is no longer the Nevis that we know. We have a diverse culture now where people from all over. I would have never fathomed if somebody told me Nevis would have been like this now, where everywhere looking Kodakron, you see somebody different pass, you don't even watching you. I say, what if these people know the area they live in and how the community really is? This ain't like you just come and you could, and I say work. Nevis is a total different place. So not because the people in the community don't say nothing, they're very observant. You see what I mean? And how the non-national live amongst within our community. In Kodakron, trust me, you have a lot of people from Santo Domingo and they take over the whole road. The hours they play music, they're just in the road where they're passing. Everybody see it, the bottom of Kodakron, that whole area is just like they bring the culture, they bring their negative attitude the same way. And that's just reality. Whatever people goes, the culture go with them. But they gotta remember when they come to a small niche area. And I realize we are people who take people course in their own place. That's how Nevis people is. They take course in their own place. You can't go Jamaica course to Jamaica in a bridging.
That's a
You
concern
can't
for
go
me. That's a
Trinidad.
big
You
concern
can't go
for
Trinidad
me.
go course. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
no,
just
you
keeping it
can't.
real,
You can't.
because
You
I
can't.
go
You
places
can't.
and
You
I know how
can't.
it is. You can't go America
Nobody's
course the
supposed to
Yankee
come
up
here
the
to
so.
cuss us. Nobody's
Me
supposed to
tell you
come
how
here
it
to cuss.
is. Okay?
Yes,
And I see
that's a
these things and
problem
people
for me.
here speak negative
That's
amongst our people. They're
yes.
comfortable. You so
They're
because we are
comfortable
very.
calling down Vision in front of
Of
Vision.
course,
You
of
know?
course. I mean,
Wow.
this is just me speaking and some of the experience. I'm not saying everybody, all of them is
I
like
know,
that,
I know where you're
but
coming from, Banky. I know exactly
a
where you're coming
large
from.
majority is like that. You see what I mean? But Nevis
Yes.
is America. You see, because I remember where it was just just division alone here, but now you have every nationality you can think of. We have welcomed them here. They have made life here. And I think they should be very appreciative. But the natives supposed to always have an edge, because if the job
Supposed
is not
to.
available, if the job is, what
Supposed to.
happened
We're
with
supposed to. We build this
the labor
country.
force, if you're gonna be hiring
Yes.
people and stuff like that, if they are not no local available, you must have an average of percentage to balance off the workforce.
Well,
I understand
exactly.
how
Yes.
union and
Yes.
stuff and how these things work and all these things. So a lot of
Yes.
hotels come here, they don't want to be unionized and all these things because they want to advantage the workers and the employees. They don't want to grow when it comes to the health benefits and all this different stuff. And then our government, how it's laid out, I mean, the legislative is that you have the government is in charge of labor. It's a bad thing. You understand? We should have a separate entity which should be subsidized, however you want to put it, like whatever it is. But you should be freely to speak, because you can't have the government representing both sides. It don't work like that. Certain things should be separated, because you may easily have a conflict of interest. You see what I mean? But as I say, you can see the change where it was from then from the little one light in Kodakode, where all the light pole have on lights now, and practically
Right.
most
We have
people
come
have,
a long
running
way. We have come
water
a long way.
and all this
Yeah.
stuff, because water trucks is come around and one garbage truck come and put a flip once now where they push up the thing up in the air and dump in the garbage. No, it's totally different. So I must say we have come a lot, but what happened, how I see things now, we soon gonna be second class. We're not gonna be second class citizens in our own place. I see it happening. I don't
Wow.
see it. And many
Oh
have seen it and
Lord.
speak about it. I mean, and they're talking about it. This because our people is doing it to us. Our problem is not the outside. Our problem is who we put to manage our country, and then through everything is so political and everything depends on a vote. No, our politics depend on the outside voters. So that is why these things lead up where we becoming our own second class citizens in our own place. That is the reason for this,
So
because of politics.
Banky, and that is why I embrace everyone and I love people in general. It doesn't matter
Yes.
where you're from, uh, but I just love because there's humanity and we are all human beings. But I just want to remind all that Nevis have paved the way for those coming here now. The Nivijan, sorry, have paved the way. And to remind ourselves of the hard work that we put into building this country long before major development arrived. Before I go there, we like to say something about our values and our identity. Nivijans I got well most of the I know I grew up with Rastafarian in my family and I respect them and I know a lot of reggae songs. People want to know how you know all those songs because a lot of my family members were Rastafarian. I eat the ital and all of that and I sing the songs. But a lot of Nigerians were God-centered people. We took our values from the Bible and we were honest, hardworking people, and we stood together, especially when times were rough. Politics back then wasn't about division. We came together behind our leaders. I remember being told of a story when persons like Sin Daniel and Evelyn and I think they say Swanston, and I'm not trying to be political here. Initially, when they go around, like they would carry their little container, hat or whatever, and the individuals will put their quarters or 10 cents or 5 cents in there to help them with their political campaign. But back then it was about getting the electricity and getting water in our land because Libyans used to have to travel so far away to get water. And as you say, Banky, sometimes you only see one little light. And sometimes there was
Yes.
just one or two television. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
as a youth, as a little girl growing up, I can recall when the men came to build the road across the alley, what we call the alley in Jessops. We helped to pound the stones and we
Yes.
fetch water from the pipe and we carried away the branches and everybody pitching. I used to even help to mix the cement as a child because that's how much we were together in building this country. And then four seasons came and then the life started to get much better for us Nivisions. But we are the ones to build this country. So as much as we embrace persons coming in here because Libyans went abroad and they live abroad, and a lot of Libyans went abroad so that life could have become better for them. I remember the boxes coming back from St. Thomas and stuff like that that was sent home, and some of us went to Tatola and St. Martin and stuff like that. But what I'm concerned is respect because I know going abroad that you respect the people of the land, and to have persons coming here to work is not a problem because Nigerians have to, but respect the persons, respect Nigerian. You're not supposed to be cussing, be feel so comfortable to be cussing out Nigerians and telling them things to make them feel bad about themselves. That should not be tolerated.
So, as we continue in this discussion, right? I'm really loving the topic, and what I am hearing. We don't have any we don't have any devils around here, so I'm not gonna be any devil's advocate, but I'm going to be the I guess the human advocate here. In listening to the discussion, right? I can't help um seeking to clarify this a little bit because the some of these people who we may be considering as outside coming in or outside folks coming in might be tell you that they are Norwegians as well because they whether it's citizenship by investment or whether it is some of them who would have gotten citizenship via their great or great grandparents connection to St. Kitts and Nevis in the past or whatever it is, or they would have been working here for a certain amount of time, and then after the time, they would have eventually would have been granted citizenship. So when you're talking about Nivisions, how do you differentiate, as Banky would have put it, the natives or those who were born here and who, as you were talking about, Cindy, helped to develop and build the nation, and you talk about those people like Sim Daniel and Mr. Swanson and all of these people and so on. They would have been considered the natives and so on. But these other people, some of them might argue today that they are Nivisions as well.
You mean I'm just gonna say this, Shai. I remember at the airport, a man was leaving Nevis to go back to the United States, and he had an American passport, United States passport. And somebody said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Look in my passport, and you're gonna see country of origin." And It doesn't matter that I was carrying an American passport. He said, look in there, you're going to see country of origin, St. Kitts and Nevis, right? So yes,
Mhm.
I understand that persons would have become citizens by whatever marriage or um, parent may be born here, whatever. But I am talking about those persons who back then would have helped to build. And it wasn't even only born again. I must say, it wasn't born again division on just persons. Let me say, the born again thing come from my Christian background. Sorry, it wasn't just persons who were born in Nevis, because I have known persons from other countries that were here during that time and would have helped to build this country as well, even though they were not born in Nevis. So I also embrace those persons who would have helped to believe this, even though they were not born here. But they live among us and they became one of us in building Nevis. So I appreciate them as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a touchy it's a touchy topic. And that's one of the reasons why I guess I began questioning it along that line. I do understand also where Banky is coming from. The fact that there are what you consider the natives versus those who become nationals via other farms. And I guess what Banky is suggesting is that there should be um, something carved out specific for the natives so that we are given some maybe extra special credence or opportunities that maybe not given to others, because like
Right, right.
um I think it is like that in America, even places like America as well,
Yes,
because you can
yes,
become
yes,
a citizen, but then you're still
yes.
not allowed to do certain things. Certain things are still left to
Right,
nationals or persons who were born in the country and so forth.
right.
So I do agree with that. So Banky, I think you were about to say something.
Yes. Not because you have a passport and obtain it, whether you have a few dollars and stuff like that. I get married to a native. I live here for 14, 13 years and stuff like that. Man, you cannot be equally as a native. It just don't work like that, because just the same way you come from originally, where it's Dominica, most to at Saint Martin, is just totally is the same thing. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. So we really got to be
Well,
very careful. And
Banky,
yes,
when you know bring into perspective the persons who are coming from the CARICOM region, now that puts into perspective a
yes,
whole different debate and discussion, because we would have signed on to certain agreements which would give these people that same
who
amount
we
of rights, so to
who,
speak.
who we me
We
not
in
saying
the sense,
nothing. Me not had a discussion with nobody about
you see,
nothing.
no, no,
So me know what you talk about. Who is the
you
we?
see, this brings us to
Decisions were made
a
without
point.
any town hall meeting and all these
Ah,
things. You know, people just sign paper in a
so
virgin.
this
I'm not for a lot of
this
things. You know,
brings us
people
to
because
that
you see,
point.
me now migrate and go to those larger countries. You know, you see what I mean? We can't. Our money is tied with the U.S. So that's what I said earlier. We are America. We are America. Once people come here, they don't have to go America. 'Cause we are America. We just America ain't better. We are better than America. That's the reality. So that's why we got to be very careful. If I was from an island, I
Yes,
mean, I
but
move from here. You see what I mean? So I mean,
but
I
but
agree
you
with
see,
people.
Banky,
You see? Yes.
here's what you're saying. You're saying that, but
Mm-hmm.
in relation, this is what I'm saying. Putting the Caribbean or CARICOM members in a whole different perspective, because you said our money is pegged to the US. So if they come here, they come into the US. But that is the same argument that St. Lucia would make, and that's the same argument that Grenada will make, and that's the same argument that Antigua and Barbuda will make. But then we will still
Make
see some
one.
of these same people that their money is pegged to the US, and if you come to
Yeah.
St. Lucia, you come into America, in America the same way. But the point
No,
is,
what I mean when I say
when we
that,
look at
remember
when we look at the
we are one
reality,
of the highest paid. Our thing is different to even though we have the same dollar, but our wages and our standard of life is different to a lot of the same island, even larger than us. You see what I mean? Our pay scale and everything amongst us is different. You see what I mean? So we have a larger influx coming to us than even those bigger islands, Antigua, and even them who the Antigua come over and Nevis, you know, who the Antigua know their Nevis, you know. So they don't know issue one
Yeah,
point
so
in the ship
Banky,
over, and that's what it is. Island happen.
so Banky, but that's
Yes.
part of the collective agreement that we would have made as a part of
Not we. You keep
CARICOM.
saying we. Me not part of the we. Who is the we? Say the leaders, them not we. Can make it like me saying paper. Me not saying the paper, yes, son.
Well,
You keep saying the
well,
we thing. Good.
the leaders, them are the ones, the leaders, them are the ones who quote unquote represent us. And by you saying that, that is strengthening my argument for us as a people to begin to hold these people accountable, because a lot of these decisions that they are making without any consultations with us have implications for us. And
And
until we
Bahamas
get to
didn't
that
do that,
level,
right? Bahamas
huh?
didn't sign those stuff, and Anguilla, right? And did Anguilla and Bahamas, those associated state, did they sign? Or they didn't sign on all those free movement and stuff like that. So you have choices. We didn't have to.
Well,
As you say, we. They
Bahamas
didn't
wasn't a
have
part
to.
of CARICOM. They were not a part of
Associated state.
CARICOM.
They're part of, but they're an associated state.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, CARICOM would
Yeah,
have
but they
made some
didn't.
specific agreements in terms of the free
Yes.
movement among the people. That's a CARICOM agreement. That whether you was associated state or not, that has, because there were countries that were not a part of CARICOM that didn't apply to. Some of these countries have now been grafted in, because I think in recent times, I think Bahamas would have been drafted into CARICOM, but I think that is more recent. Um, but I do agree with your point, and I think that is something that we do need to address as a people, where we really begin to hold these people accountable, because especially with things like what's happening here with the tariffs and the trade war and all of these things, a lot of these international agreements that were signed on to, we the people had no say. And it happens, and they say we, because they quote unquote are supposed to be representing us, but then they represent us without any consultation with us, and we continue to allow that to happen without really beginning to hold them accountable. And that is
Yeah.
why we need to have more of these kind of discussions, and then we need to have more people like Banky who is going to step up to the plate and say, look, what y'all are doing is not right, and we are going to be the change that we need to see. And so, this is what we need to have more of, and have more of these discussions. But because most of the time, Banky, we have the like I was telling somebody the other day, Nevis almost always in Nevis, especially in St. Kitts and Nevis, or to the Federation, because of how the elections are not in sync. The local election and the federal election are not totally in sync. Nevis is almost always in campaign mode. When it's not campaigning for a federal election, it's campaigning for a local election. And so you find that a lot of the debates and the discussions and the talk is usually surrounding the petty partisan politics. And a lot of the times, a lot of the regional issues and global issues and so on, that the people should be engaged in, they're not engaged in, because the governments know to some extent too as well. The politicians, let me not say the government, because we are the government, we are the people. The politicians know that if they keep the people distracted with the petty partisan arguments and so on, that is how they would be kind of part of their strategy of winning an election, because the objective is not necessarily to address the concerns of the people, but it's to win an election. And so we, the masses, and that's why I keep saying, Banky, in a lot of my recent discussions and here, I have stopped seeking to address the politician and channel my energy to seeking to empower my people, so that they can become more informed and more educated, and so that they can begin to do like us and hold these people more accountable. So that is part of what we seek to do with these discussions. So, Banky, it's as you say, it's not we, because it's them, but technically, they claim to be, they're the ones who we elect to represent us. However, we need to stop allowing them to do things on behalf of us without any consultations with us. Will we, the people, get to that level? Will we, the people, start to do that? It is left to be seen.
Go on, Cindy.
Yes, that is why I want to remind Nigerians of who we are, where we come from, and how we would have contributed to this country. So we deserve accountability. We need our leaders to be accountable and more transparent in what they're doing because we deserve that. This country does not belong to one person or no one party, it belongs to all of us. So we should also have a say in what is going on in our country. I must let's not forget that we were the one who paved the road before the heavy machinery, taught in school before the degrees, we grew our own food, fetched water, and kept this island alive with our sweat, faith, and love. So we deserve respect from our leaders in all areas and aspects of respect. And yes, I agree to you
But as
guys that
go ahead,
signing
finish
on
up.
to
Go ahead.
things without having like town hall meetings so that the even to educate the masses about what is going on because in the long run it will affect us. So they need to, have more conversation or open discussion about just not go and sign on to things and then we have to bear the consequences.
But the natives population, from your point of view, Yason, with what they see going on and stuff like that, are they comfortable? Are they just figure, well, it is what it is? Are they just going about their daily life and don't really care? They mumble amongst themselves. We live in an environment where we tend to speak amongst ourselves, but then when it comes to speak out to in public or whatever to share, voice your opinion, people are shy to speak because they figure, well, if they speak, they might, be looked down on or be cussed and all kind of craziness. Because even though you say
There's
it's democracy, so but
there's a
how
lot of
but
fear.
the general okay,
There's
so
a
which
lot of
means so
fear
people
that
know,
exists under that. Yes.
so
Because people
people
call
know
me.
what's going on, then they can see.
They know what's going on. They know what is happening. Just the other day, I got a call from someone at Four Seasons Hotel who said to me, "Girl, Cindy, seem as though they are not hiring Nigerians. They're hiring a lot of the Spanish. They're hiring a lot of Guyanese, and Nigerians are not getting the work." So I went on my Facebook page and I made a post and I even called Four Seasons. Well, the person never called me back, but still I make it be known that I don't mind people coming in and getting employed because Nigerians would have gone overseas, but we cannot allow Nigerians to start feeling like second class citizens in their own country. There must be a balance in terms of employment, right? And that to me is about people call and say being undermined on their jobs and they're crying and saying, some people coming in and taking over and they're getting most of the jobs and stuff like that. People even think that the government itself support um, non-national more than how they support individual. I don't know how true that is, but
Hmm.
there are persons who also come crying that that is so, and I would want to say that I hope it is not the case, because I will expect that our local government would want to help individuals, will respect them, would love their own people, and will want to take care of them in the best way possible. And that is just a myth or people just saying this thing, but I am hoping that is not actually the case where the government seem not to value their some people, right? Let me the governing party because we are the
Okay.
government. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt into thinking that they're taking care of the individual people, and it's just like I say, word on the street or word of mouth that people might think it's the other way around.
You'll hear some people calling on some talk shows and they will say, "Oh, the Norwegian people them don't like to work and they can't find no workers as much a work they and all they could find is those who come in because if you come into a place you're going in a hustle mentality, cause you're in a foreign, cause that's what they'll call here foreign. So of course you have bills to pay. The locals they might be in a family house or whatever, and then have yes some of the responsibility whatever it is, and that goes anywhere you go it will be the same. All the locals in America, all the locals that want to work and they got is the young are the same thing. So when you hear somebody call us, oh, the local, that's not true. And you hear these things on all the radio shows, a lot of the radio shows, all the locals don't want to work and they're lazy, all they want to sit down and no smoke and this. Or when you travel to other places, the same thing. You'll find a small minorities like that. But when they say the mass, so me not like you walk. When nobody like to walk, people want to do the work for themselves. They don't want to get up or slave for nobody. People get up because they have responsibility, but no human being only like to walk. When them so, the brain like to rest, the body like to chill. People get up because of responsibilities, and that's what it is. So you'll hear a lot of division and a lot and Kinesia will say, oh, they can't find a work, and then those who come in have a better work ethics because there's hard workers and they don't really, when they reach 3:30, the locals don't start wash up the tools 3 o'clock, whereas those who come in, they stay at the job till 6 o'clock. Because I understand those things, those stuff. Is the same when we leave here, go outside, we work longer hours. We work on the weekend. We do different stuff because these are so people speak like this. I was saying these people crazy to be speaking like that because that is normal.
Yeah,
But
because when
everybody's
you're
like
home,
that.
that's the privilege that you get for being home.
Exactly.
But if you go
Yes.
over there, then that that privilege is taken away, where you have to become like that. So I understand
Yes.
exactly what you're trying to say, but
But then you
I
have the
do
same
encourage my
locals
people to
here
work hard.
still working 2 and 3 jobs because you'd hear the ministers they must say, oh, so much work in Navy, some people work 2 and 3 and 4 job. But who's work 2 and 3 and 4 job? I mean the money is not enough to pay your bills. You see what I mean? So it's stuff like that. So but I get where you're coming from. You see what I mean? So we have come a long way, definitely.
Yeah,
And
we
the,
have
the
built this
division and
country.
conditions, of course, without a doubt. Because as I said, I remember how it was. You understand,
Yes,
growing up, and you know who the contractors them were and all them stuff there, the few contractors
yes.
and the Shivertons and the Lescott and stuff, and then you have the others, and you know what I mean. So, but we have come a long way, but we
Long,
know
long
and we
way. So
observe it, and I
yeah,
seen especially Kodakode, my village is one of those way, and the town area where a lot of people settled. You see what I mean? So I see it, I see the change. I mean, and I see the cultural change and stuff like that, and we just got to do
why
put things in
we're
place
supposed to
where
respect.
we protect our own, and that's all it is.
Yeah, people supposed to. I don't mind you coming, but Lord, show some respect. Don't be disrespecting the locals. Don't think that you can do as you want because we are small and take advantage of us. And no, that is not good. And Nigerians, we need to stop pulling down one another. Don't let politics divide us. I mean, everybody supports who they want. You support who you want. I support who I want. But that's where it starts and that's where it ends. Support what, but do not become so bitter that we start to fight and get divided. And because it's not going to help our country to be any better if we continue on that road of that kind of division among ourselves. We need to stand together to build this country and to continue making this a great place.
Yes, son.
Well, a lot of that, is reminding me of um, like the fact that today is what, Earth Day. I think it's World Earth Day. And on a day like this, you're gonna get some nice fancy speeches from those people who are in agriculture and so on, and talk about food security and maybe how important it is to plant a tree and all of that and so on. And very convenient. And I think we have some very good orators, I mean, amongst our populace, and especially in the realms of politics. Oh man, these guys can sell ice to Eskimos, you know what I mean? Like with their talk. But then when let's using the same example with agriculture, when you look at the budget for agriculture, where is all that talk? Where is the matching to all that talk in terms of the money that you set aside to deal with agriculture? And I use that example to say that, and I'm going to segue into this next topic, so to speak. Right now, everybody is glued into the Carifta games that's going on, and we are all feeling very good about some of our athletes. and their performances and so on so far. I think we would have seen some people getting bronze and, some all kind of other, level of performances. We talk about the inter-primary here on Nevis and the kind of recognition that it has gotten to the point that it has a regional sponsor over all of these years. When one or two of our track and field members, do things, you find the government are ready to, be the ones to get the photo ops and so on, and want to give all the praises and so on, and they should. However, in regards to investing in sports and investing in these youths, sometimes I find that that is very much lacking. And one such instance is happening presently where I am understanding that there are some students who are supposed to go to perform in the Penn Games in the US. And there is some challenges that are being faced by the students of the Gingerland school, and I think it's the Charles E. Mills and St. Kitts, where, seem as if parts of the funding is being paid. Parents and all are even putting their parts together. But then now it reaches to where the government is supposed to put in a little bit of investment. And I am hearing that, the government is saying that they don't have the monies to invest in such things. Now, if that is the case, now I don't have any confirmation on it, but that is what I'm hearing. I'm hopeful that that is not the case. I'm really hoping that that is not the case, because we can't be saying that we are serious about our youths and our youth development and, our development in sports. And then you have an opportunity like this, because I would have heard someone spoken about the significance of that activity, because it seems as if that is a very, very huge activity, and it gives athletes, it doesn't matter where they are around the world, an opportunity to shine. And so if you really are serious about, the development of your youth, you could find money for all kind of other things. When let's say an election is supposed to come next year, they will find money to bring in artists and to do all kind of other things and so on. How come you can't find money to invest in your youth for sporting activities? And these are the same youths who you're going to claim are getting involved into all kind of things, when sporting is a way of channeling the extra energies that are sometimes ended up utilized in them becoming whether part of gangs or in activities that are not acceptable to society and so on. Here is it, you have an opportunity to give them that impetus. And so that when they do come back and they bring back the goal and the whatever it is, and you do go and take the pictures, that you could feel truly comfortable because you would have really invested. And then the sad thing about it when we hear these kind of things, is that it is not even their own personal money that they're investing. It is our money. The taxes are our money. It's our taxes that you're saying that you don't have enough of to support our children. And then we still have people who, when you do speak out about these things, some people get offended, and then they also want to label you as the opposition because you point out the inadequacies of them and the things that they should be doing. We should be.
Yeah, so let me take this call.
commenting.
Someone coming in. Let me take this call. Someone calling in.
Yes.
Caller, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, man.
How are you doing?
How you doing tonight, bro?
Yes.
And good evening to the guests.
Good evening.
Can you hear? Yes, sir?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, speak up a little bit more, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Good evening. Good evening to you guys, and good evening to the guests. I'm gonna go straight at the guests as we're talking about money and some of the other topics you're all talking about tonight. Just a question for the guests. I want to know if she has been following that MSR saga situation, and we hear our old people say, put up some money for a rainy day. And the persons in the federation, it's, to me, you know, as I followed that MSR saga, a lot of money poured into Bastille in the CBI program. And my opinion on that is, it seems like so much money came in that St. Kitts and Nevis should be in tip-top shape. There's no way we should have those projects faltering. And then Yason comment about the government, I guess that was on the Nevis side, saying they don't have money to send some youths to the pen release. That's a shame. So to the guests, I just want to get her take on how she feel about money that's just disappearing and mismanaged. And if we look at that scale, the amount of money that came in, to people can't see the tangible results on the ground. And we don't have any natural resources, but some persons didn't like that CPI program from get-go. But we went through with it and we raked in the money. And the money, you know, in some countries that got natural resources, they will give their citizens like returns. And the persons in the federation, the citizens, they ain't get no returns like that. The money ain't got down to the common working people. It just seems like only certain people at the top got that money. So I wanna get the guests to put some of this in perspective and get her take and her opinions on this, because it's like a drunken man went to the bar, he got paid, and he went to the bar and spent off his paycheck. And then we have other behaviors from, you know, working people, men and women both. Some people have addictions and they will go and spend their money here, there, and everywhere, except dealing with their responsibilities. You know, like bringing home that money and first taking care of the family, taking care of the home, taking care of the kids. So in retrospect of all this money that seems like just disappeared, wherever that money went, and wherever that money is right now, I just want to get the guests to speak on some of this and see how she feels about where the Federation is right now in retrospect to all of that money that came in to where we are currently right now. And I'll keep listening off the ear, man. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, cool. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you, Carla. From my perspective, my grandmother used to say that there's a side to every story, your side, somebody else's side, and the truth. Normally, before I like to speak from an informed position, so normally I try to do my research on what is happening before I speak openly about it. But if it's the case that money being wasted, then that is really sad. I would not feel good to know that money is coming into this country and being wasted. And sometimes I do question how money is being spent in terms of how we function, especially when it comes to me being a civil servant, when it comes to government offices, and you're saying that you can't do programs or you can't do projects because no money is there. And then when election time come, somehow there's so much money out there to do so many things, and that's a issue for me. And I think if money is coming in, it's supposed to be spent on developing or empowering people to develop their country. So it is not a good thing. And I would not feel good to know that money is actually coming in and being wasted. But to be honest with you, I cannot say where it really went because I have to do my own research on that matter before I can speak and say, oh, well, the money coming and it actually wanted to sue me, and I don't want to know that I'm accusing anybody wrongly either. So if you can kindly give me a chance to do some research on that matter, then next time I can come back and speak more openly about it. And I do hope I get your
Yep.
understanding in this regard.
Yeah, son, when it comes to sports, I'm not sure how everything is set up. Because usually, if once the term begin and stuff like that, if you have been invited to take part, I know usually you get time in advance to the planning, and plus if you're doing the government set budgets, and it fathom me that the schools don't have to do so much of fundraising for when it comes to sports, then all this thing, because I'm not sure how education do and the ministers, them who in charge of education and sports, does their budget and how they allocate funds for each schools and to plan all these sports. I tell you, is a lot of sports to keep in a virgin. And I've realized the schools, I'm a part of the high school parents, teachers, of the executive, the PTA, I'm the PRO. You see what I mean? I know when the second quarter and is about exam times and stuff like that. So I just want to encourage these parents to encourage your students to do an exam, you understand, to do their studies and stuff like that. And especially to them, encourage them to do sciences subject. It's sports have become the biggest thing ever now. You see what I mean? Is like a money making thing because the schools them don't get a loan somehow, whatever it is. I really don't know. It don't make no sense to me because the schools them, what is a pre-K or a high school are the same thing. The miles are big. Then I got the money. So me not understand that.
Well,
I can just never understand it. So I find these things. Yes.
That is another issue that and you see when you are to address these issues, the average people tend to just think that you are seeking to pick at their government because that is how they look at it.
No,
Right?
yes, son.
No,
These are reality. If you go to school, if you take, I go to
Banky,
teachers'
I
parents
know,
meeting. I go to primary school. So
Banky,
if
Banky,
you'll hear this discussion that they
Banky.
talk about, yes. And
I
you're a
was in the
teacher too, so you
education
know.
system. Remember, I was a
Exactly.
teacher, so exactly. So that's the point I'm
Yes, so
making.
you
So
know.
what I'm alluding to,
Yes.
right now is the reality of the situation, and this is why I'm saying we have elected officials who want to boast when these children eventually excel, whether it is academically, whether it is through sports, whether it's through some other form of entertainment. Um, they want to boast, but then when it comes to putting in the investment in these youths, it becomes a whole other thing. I mean, the other day I heard, um, and like for some people, and this is why sometimes I am kind of trying to fathom how our people think. I heard the Minister of Education the other day boasting about um, some thousand chairs or desk or some sort of things that was donated by some, I think is Winsong or some foundation. No, I welcome any donation that anybody is giving to any ministry in the government because we do need donations. So I'm not trying to pound on the donations. My thing is that is the responsibility of the government. So you
Yeah, back
coming
up.
to boast about
Back up.
somebody
I want to
helping
back
you
up, yes,
doing
son.
what you're supposed to do. Huh?
I want to back up. I want to interject. Because the name doesn't ring a bell. Is this the same win song that Mr. Lebod was put, the premier put Mr. Lebod over with $2 million or some kind of million to donate to some schools for scholarships and wherever? Is so the name so familiar? Could be off. I'm
I
just trying to
think
be
so. I
corrected.
think so.
That some
I
only
don't know about the
money you
specific.
allocate for scholarships and wherever, but the money disappear, poof, as a poof
Well,
poof.
I, I don't.
And that
I
is the same
don't.
money by the
I don't
chairs.
know about it,
And
but
that is the same money by the chairs
I know.
now. It could be the same money by the
Well,
chairs
I
now.
know the
Some of the
Winston
money I used to buy the
Foundation.
chairs. Yes.
Well,
I just asking. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I know the
All right.
foundation would have been around, but I think the premier would have spoken about the foundation sometime back.
And put Mr. Levin in
However, like I'm
charge of
saying though,
to whatever. I just want to make sure we're on the same
my
page
thing
because
is,
it's the name so familiar. Okay.
well, my thing is though, right, Banky, what I'm saying is we shouldn't be boasting that we're getting help to do what we should be doing. We should be saying that these things are basic things that we should be able to take care of for our children if we are serious about their education. As an educator, I know as well for the school systems, many times the teachers and staff and all have to raise funds to get ink for the printer and all of these basic things to operate a school. They got to raise fundraising for almost everything, toilet paper. I mean, the basic things to operate a chalk, duster.
But why is that? Why is this happening? What the purpose of education then? I don't get it.
So that is what I'm saying. If you know that these are things that should be, and if you're really serious about education, then you really should have these things budgeted for. And it is the same argument I make for agriculture. If you're going to tell me you're serious about improving agriculture and you're serious about improving the food security and sovereignty bill, but then when I look at the budget, what you budgeted for agriculture 10 years ago, you have reduced that to almost 1.5%. How are you proving to me that you're really serious about improving this when you're putting less money into it? That just does not add up. And I mean, sometimes these things go over the head of the average people because the average people sometimes don't pay attention to these things. We don't pay attention to the budget and what's going on in the house and so on. I mean, they call it house assembly and that's it. These are some of the reasons why we end up don't hold them accountable, and they realize these things, and that's why they go come and tell us. And I mean, sometimes I really try to figure out our people. I mean, a man come and tell you we're gonna do this thing in the first quarter, and you take it and say, okay, yes, we're doing this thing in the first quarter, and then the first quarter come, and he ain't do it. And you come back and you ask, well, you say you were gonna do this thing in the first quarter. You say, man, we're gonna do this later on in the year. He ain't tell you the next quarter. He might tell you the next quarter, then he tell you next year or later on in the year. No specific figure, and nobody hold them accountable because they do these things because they know that we have a short memory. 9 days. Tell you something today, 9 days. It's hot on the press for 9 days. Then after that, we don't remember that. And we continue to settle with these things. So it becomes as the norm. Now, I hear Cindy talk about the wastage of money, and you were saying that in regards to the CBI, sorry, you can't really substantiate because you have not done enough research and so on, and fair enough. However, we can see how a lot of these wastages take place. Let's look at locally home. We saw in the hospital yard, a building that was there. It was knocked down some years ago, and a big sign was put up saying, coming soon. And it's years now, it's coming soon. The hospital wing started almost 8 years. Paint on the outside, nothing on the inside. And if it is going to be completed, by the time it is completed, it's going to need paint again. So that is an extra set of money again that we, the taxpayers, have to pay. You have a boiler facility that you said you were going to start. You invested in a boiler machine. That's taxpayers' money. You brought in the boiler machine. You have not set up any building. You have not made any efforts to set up the boiler industry. But you're paying to store the boiler machine somewhere. That is additional taxes for our people. You said you're going to start a phase 2 of the Indian Castle Orchard. You would have begun that project already. You said you would have invested over $400,000 already to clean up the land. If you're going to go into a phase 2, you're going to have to spend money again to clean up that land again. So when we look at wastage, these are just some simple examples that we are using to show how monies were utilized and it is actually wastage. Because if you're going to paint a building that is not completed, and you're gonna have to you're gonna have to paint it again when it's finished, because it's not coming out of your pocket, because it's coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. You're going to clean up a piece of land that you're not going to cultivate. You have the fencing wire, you have everything, but you haven't activated the project, and you promised to start it, and we're about to go in. We're almost through the second quarter, and it has not started. You have the boiler machinery, and you're paying extra to store it. Man, you put it in operation, So you're already paying extra. That's wastage. Now, you talk about these things, and people claim that you are supporting the opposition because you highlight inadequacies. And this has nothing to do with Because if it was NRP who did that, I would have been charging. If Banky was the minister and he did that, I would have been on Banky the same way. So this has nothing to do with but this is just pointing out, as you're talking about wastage.
Well, Shai, these are things that we're supposed to bring to the front in terms of our taxpayers' money being wasted, and what we need to, our leaders and people going into politics, and so we need to care more. We need to care about how taxpayers' money spent and what we are doing to empower our people. But I find sometimes I want to feel that now, as you say, that we are always in election mode and it's more about winning an election in some regard rather than in the development of the country. Politicians need to go in knowing that I might not be here forever, I might not win every election, but leave some footprints in the sand of time in terms of making whenever you have the chance to serve. We are supposed to be servants of the people. We are supposed to serve them whenever we have the chance to serve. Make the best of the God-given opportunity that we have to be in those positions to serve, and also do something tangible in terms of making Nevis or Sinkis or wherever we are a better place, so that we know that we did not go in there because of the other benefit, just to say we are honorable this and fly all over the place and get the best seat in the room and stuff like that, but to really help to make our country better. And so we need leaders who care enough to want to do that. And when we care, because if it's your home, I would think that you will want to budget more carefully because that's your money, and so taxpayers' money should not be wasted either.
Yeah, son. I remember when I was at Indian Castle, Fruity Orchard managing down there. The other time we were cleaning up the coconut trees and stuff like that, the dry leaves and stuff like that, and especially when they start get on one or two pests, because you want to separate them, because you don't want any spreading to control. And they were all calling different truckers to rotate them, to give them, you know what I mean? Because people make me say, boy, things rough and whatever. So you'll give different, I don't give the same work all the time, I'll rotate it and stuff like that,
Yes.
which is the right thing to do. So
Yes.
at the same time, they was cleaning the second phase land that you just mentioned. And I told my foreman at the time, which was Woodis, DJ Woodis, tell this guy to come and wave, and I tell the car, so the guy supposed to go by Woodis. So tell the guy, go down by Woodis, expect the guy to take up the banana, the coconut leaves and put them where they're supposed to go. Because it's at the same property. You know the man do? Then I get a call, right? From by the guy who clean the land next door. Ask me if I send a man down there to pick up trash. Me say, boy, me not about the land there clean. Me not about the land there. Okay, me in charge of the property, so based on the body there. You understand? Because that's what the PS know. I don't let them, me not have nothing about that. Anybody call me and say, call to you or the minister. Me not get involved. He said, anyway, he don't have a feeling me not send the guy there. You understand? Because he been there working for over a month, 2 months, going and working there. You understand? Me not get involved. So you say, anyway, he make one trip. Me say, you give him a trip for what? Me say, all right, cool. I say, anyway. He say, me say, well, where you there? Where you do? I say, tell him you man go over by the farm, which part is established. We then guys cutting off the coconut branches and go over there and check for woodies. Yes, and the man's long there all day. Then the man come and tell me, oh, the guy left there about after 4 minutes to treat, after 3, something like that. So he see me the next day and say, whatever. I said, well, you don't. So I asked Woody, so Woody, where the guy come walk? He said, he not see the guy up to now. I said, okay. So when I see the guy, tell the guy, well, send in the bill. You know what I mean? Because the guy tell me he make one trip. Well, you know, I hear the joke. The man, so I get a call from the secretary now. Banky, this guy bringing a bill there for, say, this work in the castle. I say, how much the bill be? $900 and something dollars. Me say, $900 something for do what? So expensive. I say, anyway, tell the guy there, I only gonna pay him for one trip. So only one trip he make. Cause he ain't gonna sit down for no job that me know nothing about me the send it pan. And me gonna pay him for sit down for 8, 9 hours he send in, and me gonna pay him. You know what so they say, you know, the man can't tell me I go and like go make money of mine. So if he can boldly tell me that, what wastage is going on in them, is anyway, that's the way you get paid for one trip, 150, take it or leave it, or 110. So choose a number. Can you not pass 150? Because that is what the truck worth, 110, between 110 and 150. But I'm not gonna pay a bill for 9 something. It's not gonna happen. And the PS no way stay, the secretary no way stay. I confirm whatever bill I give you a job. You can't wait on what you come in and settle for that virgin. You see what I mean? So I'm just saying this to show you. I got through these experiences. So which means these guys are accustomed to just sit down and get paid. You see? Just can't believe this thing. This man is crazy. And these are people living in Hanley's Road, you know. So if you're living in an area where you have a minister there and you come in, I say, let the minister know. This is what he talk about. Tell him, you know. Because these are his supporters. But me not saying accept these things, to let him know. She said, these people crazy. The place by the man, they're mad. A local young man like you, they got to deal with. Because I ain't got time for them cunning ways, the virgin. When people can sit down and just write up all kind of bills, and people sign off on these bills and they not do no work, they make no sense.
Well, they think that they think that their votes empower them to do that, to rip off the government or to rip off taxpayers, and sometimes they get away with it because of the power of the votes. So they get away with it.
Yes.
And people are
I want to encourage those who listening to. I just want to say to those listening to the telephone number is 662-7196, and remember to continue share the link and to encourage others to be a part of the discussion, and to remain them our guests, Cindy Nisbet, right? I'm correct, right, Cindy?
Well, my name is, but Cindy's fine. Cindy's fine. Cindy Nisbet is fine.
Okay, all right.
Janet Nisbet. But Banky, what we are saying here is accountability. And
of course,
if we are not holding the ministers and even our civil servants, because we also have to realize that they have to realize that they are being paid by us. They are working on behalf of us. And the elected officials are our highest paid servants. And that is why what they do is seek to use reverse psychology and make us, after we elect them, they seek to make us feel like they're the bosses. So we say, yeah, the boss. They ain't a boss. They are not our bosses. They are our highest paid servants. And the people who are in the civil service also have to realize as well that the obligation is not to the minister who they feel like threatening the job. The obligation is to the people whose taxes are paying them. And so they should be doing whatever they're doing to help to benefit the people. And I find sometimes in the civil service, as Banky put up that thing where he said, he go and let the government money and he won. There are some people in the civil service who function as if the money is theirs and don't realize that the money should be utilized to help the people. And there are a lot of people who do need help, but sometimes some of these people who in these positions still have this kind of crab in a barrel mentality, and they feel like, oh, depending on who you be, who is you to get this? No, we have to break away from these things and start to realize that it is our taxes paying you, and you are there to look after even the little man who cleaning the drain, because he 10 cents out of his salary paying towards your salary. And we need to be able to have that kind of mindset.
Child, I don't want to be the devil's advocate here, but don't you think that our leaders, the way our leaders behave, might be a reflection of the society and who we have become as a people? Because we are the ones who elect our leaders, and I must be fair there are so much demands coming from the community or people in terms of wanting the leaders to give them a fridge or a stove, or they have to do this, or this person want help here. I'm not saying that there are persons who genuinely does need help and that we need to help them, but sometimes some of us get so greedy and we think that when a government is elected, or when the governing a party is elected to govern the country, that because I vote for that party that I should get special privileges, I should get more money, I should be able to get a job and charge more just because I vote for that party. So we as a people also must be fair in our dealings, and look to see that it's not about us alone, but what we can. It's everybody should, as Banky would have said earlier, that you give everybody a chance to generate funds, you give everybody a chance in terms of employment. But some people also think that they are special and they should get more than other people, and that is what is also happening
Yes.
in our community. We are not working
But
as like together to say it's about Nevis or it's about Sinkit or it's about Tatola. Some of us think it's about me, that we're supposed to get this
Miss
much, and
Nisbet,
because
the 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 reality is we as a people have allowed the politicians to create that kind of scenario and create that kind of culture within our society. So a lot of people end up, because of the same political games that we're talking about here, where even some people in the civil service um, deemed to have political favor because of the position. So when we talk about um, holding them accountable, there are scenarios where I would have heard where there are people in certain positions in government who tell you straight up they are following a chain of commands. They answer direct to the minister. And if you have a chain of command in a ministry, you have a PS, you have a director, you have. So you're telling me these people ain't gonna say? You just talk to the minister, and whatever the minister say, that's it. So if you don't have that
Normal
level
thing,
of
yes, son.
accountability, even within the civil service, then you see why some of these people who are even on the outside feel like they have that level of entitlement as well. And this is a culture that is created by the politicians. And we allow it because at the same time, as you mentioned, some people are going to benefit. So maybe the party supporters and the hangers on and those who maybe round up the people and all that and so on. So but sometimes we the people turn a blind eye to these things instead of speaking up and speaking out and let our voices be counted. We sit back and just allow these things and pretend as if like it is not happening. And so that is why for me, like I said, I've opted to not so much seek to chastise the politicians. Why? Because I see it as a game, right? The politicians are part of the game, and we, the electorate, is a part of the game. The politicians, they know their role and they're playing their role very well. So I can't be upset with them because if their objective is to win and they're doing their task and then they're being successful at winning, then I can't be upset with them. I have to be upset with the people who are aware of what is going on, see what is
and
going
still
on, and and,
continue to
and
elect
still
them.
and so that's what I'm saying. So those are the people now I have to figure out if they're really seeing or if they ain't seeing, seek to help them see so they can be in a better position to be more informed. And that's the angle and position that I would have taken over the past, few years. Before we get into any other topic, Banky, I'm just gonna go through some of the comments that I see on the
Yes.
wall. So we have
No problem.
Buba saying bless our family. So we should have already tabled indigenous rights to our people from a parliamentary perspective. He says also that's why we need a better share of powers, such as parish mayors. Good point. Um, that is something that I am in total agreement with. Have people in the various communities that could deal with the issues and so on that are faced by the average people. And then that person, as a village councillor, as he said, parish mayor, so to speak, now, bring the issues of the community to the various ministers and so on. And then we should have that accountability where now the ministers now should be able to say, okay, well, these issues were brought to the table. We have dealt with X, Y, or Z, and we're having challenges with EFQ, and we need XQ to finish that. But we don't have that level of consultation, and we do need that level of consultation. Bua says again, the current relationship of SKN shows Nevis as a colony of syndicate. Bobby Jones says that boiler machine already seized up by now. Perfect example of waste of money. He also says these monies are not coming from these guys' pockets, so they don't really care. He says, true, yes, and the people got the politicians one way, and then the politicians got the people another way. It's all a game, and the politicians have the people with their hands out. On the Facebook wall, we have Yvonne Jeffers. Well, Ruthlin Hill saying she's in the house. We have Yvonne Jeffers saying good morning all and tagging Lauret Wharton. We have Colin Gishard saying blessings, blessings. Yvonne Jeffers saying the government should budget for schools, hospital, police stations, prison, senior homes, etc. She's also saying right is right and wrong is wrong. And we also have Carbo Trevor Cornelius inside the house with us as well.
Yes, sir. What we can't miss right now is what's going on.
1 second. One more comment. I have similar position like Yasan. I blame the electorate for keep putting in these recycled politicians, and all seem so corrupted that at the end of the day, the electorate is to be blamed. And that is the bottom line, really. So yes, Banky.
Yes, if you see what's going on in the world right now, it shows that throughout the Caribbean, our leaders have failed to diversify our economy, and depending on just tourism tourism when it comes to collecting taxes and to move the country forward, and then the CBI, we have not diversified our economy. We have just, from the moment the sugar industry closed down, we have just moved straight into tourism. So right now, everybody's caught with their pants down, running around like headless chicken, don't know where to turn to. Now they're looking at Africa, looking at Europe, because of this crisis of trade war going on, and all these high taxes, I don't want to call them tariff, import duties have been posed, and countries shipping from the Caribbean to the US are taking stuff from China. So either way, the Prime Minister don't say hard times are come, and he not jack no VAT, and he need to collect tax. He said that. You see? So what our leaders, how are we going to change these things? So it mean you buy something, you pay the duty instead of pay tax pan the VAT pan the tax. So you pay tax pan tax pan tax and tax. So how where your money now move? Your money now move. So how we gonna change these things? Everything going up now, you know. And what coming into the country are basic stuff: milk, sugar, just basic stuff that you use every toilet paper, all these regular necessities that you need to function daily gonna go up.
Well,
your
Banky,
Milo, whatever it is coming, gonna go
Banky,
up.
I am hearing you here now bring this issue to the fore. I have heard, I think I was listening to a talk show earlier on today, and I've heard that as a part of the major topic. Have we heard from our politicians in terms of seeking to educate our people in terms of what to expect as a result of some of these things? They are the ones who would have went out and sign on to some of these agreements with this World Trade, WTO, and all these other kind of things that they would have signed on to, which puts us in a position where we almost have to import everything. They don't see food security the way we see food security, because they know that they are guaranteed a certain amount of money every month. And as long as the boats come in and the supermarket shelves are filled, they don't have a problem with food security. The only time they would have a problem is like now, and I guess that's maybe why part of the discussion is around, where they're saying now they're gonna put tariffs on boats that are made in China, in the ships that made in China. The tariffs from China seem to be rising nearly every day. I think it's almost 200 and something percent now. And the implications for us who are predominantly importers in these sites. What I'm saying is I'm hearing people from the private sector and so on come to the public and seek to help the masses figure out how it's going to affect us. But those people who we are paying to look out for us and inform us, we are hearing from them. And these are some of the things where I'm saying we are not
I mean,
holding
I hear
our
your
people.
son. I just tell you, the Prime Minister
No, no, no,
say
no.
last week.
I said, hold on.
Uh-huh.
I said, I am not hearing from those. I'm hearing from you, and I'm hearing from people in the public sector. I said, I am not hearing from those who I hire and paying with my taxes to say they're looking out for me,
Yeah.
and who went out to sign on to these agreements. And another thing, Banky, shifting a little bit. Why are we like this? We had whatever issue going on with Cuba and some of the issues in the Caribbean. We sit back and allow the representative for America to come in, Mr. Rubio or whatever his name is. And he met with Haiti, Barbados, and I think it was Guyana. And I think then eventually he had some discussions with St. Vincent and so on. But why something like that did not warrant a CARICOM approach? Why, since it is something that affects all of the Caribbean territories, that all of us didn't have an opportunity to have a voice at the table? Why is it that it was only 2 or 3 people from the region who would have, sat around,
But that's normal thing, your son. That's not normal with Joe Biden, with Obama. They usually go to the bigger countries and invite the bigger countries and leave out the smaller that and that. That's normal. When Obama went to Trinidad and Jamaica and Biden, we don't count. We don't count, your son. We are that. We're gonna millions of people. We are millions of people. We ain't got 100,000 people. The US gonna tell us, gonna talk for us. That's what it is.
Well,
The US gonna talk for us.
I don't totally agree with that, because we're supposed to
But it's 3
be
times. But that's happening all the
sovereign
time. But that's what we're doing all the time.
sovereign territories. And a lot of these things, and this is why I'm saying that we need to be holding our leaders accountable, because a lot of these things that's happening throughout the world right now would have serious implications for us. So, for example, a couple of days ago, I would have heard that in the news that Taiwan was crying out because it seemed as if some amount of planes and boats and so on from China was surrounding Taiwan, and Taiwan was concerned of the possibility of what is happening in Ukraine with Ukraine and Russia. Now, with us in the Caribbean, even in CARICOM, some territories have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and some have diplomatic relations with China.
Mainly, yes.
What voice CARICOM is going to have? What would they say if that is supposed to escalate into whatever it is? Then you would have territories like St. Kitts and Nevis, who more than likely would be expected to take Taiwan's side. Now, taking that without any consultation with us, these are some of the things that I'm talking about, how we find ourselves into these things based on decisions that were made by people who are elected to represent us. But we have no say in some of these things, because when they're going to make these decisions, it's not a case where they come and have a town hall meeting and say, well, guys, we're supposed to go out next month to have a discussion on this topic, and we want to get your views and opinions on what path you think we should take. They don't try to find out what the people is saying or what the people want. They go and do whatever, and then we, the masses, now have to suffer whatever consequence. So that
But
is
so
the issue. Yes.
yeah, but this still come back to what the reality was going on now. How the basic amenities that people trying to bat and working 2 and 3 jobs, how they're gonna continue going forward when everything gonna increase, the milk, the sugar, the flour, along with everything else. What the government gonna give out more stimulus packages? What they're gonna do? Provide they're not providing
Well,
no
I
work.
can tell you
So
I can
how
tell
this
you what part of the plan is.
what happened? This
You want
is
me
a
to,
serious. You see, we're still in the recession from 2008, and now
you want me to
COVID
tell you
trigger
what
next
part of the, you want
recession,
me to tell you what
and
part of
now
the
this is next
solution is?
recession again. What is that?
You want me to tell you what part of the solution is?
Wait, is what's that?
We are going to continue to import, but it's just that we're going to import from a different territory. So we are now not going to import so
Yeah, but
much
the
from
cost, the
the
food not,
US.
but this is expensive. It's the point in where you come from, the cost of living going up, go down, and then once thing in navies go up, and say it don't go back down, no matter what go on in the world,
Look,
whether gas go up and it go back down to, it still stay up.
look,
So my thing
we
is
are going to have
how would it
we are
be
going to have a huge
Europe
storage
and
facility on
Africa?
St. Kitts and Nevis,
Me
and we
no
are going to
care.
be
Things
importing
still
food
gone up.
from Africa.
Cost of living still gone up. That's what I'm trying to show you. So how the taxpayers liberty, everything will go up. The dollar become weaker. Because you can't even for $300 a week or $1,000 a month, and everything gone up. Sweet potato gone from $5 to $7. The plastic appear, and then you give a free plastic bag, and also know you charge for the paper bag. Me not understand that. Me not understand that. Why you have some you sell stuff when you give stuff free all the time when you package stuff? So why you gonna charge? Me not get that. Even back in the 80s when you go to the supermarket, in not in the supermarket, in the grocery store in Kodakul by Mr. Lawrence and they're buying and wrap up your stuff, your butter and your saltfish or whatever you buy. They put me in a paper bag, you're not pay for the paper bag in the 80s. So how back in 2025 you buy paper bag now? So who can who? When they gonna give me free plastic? This thing don't make no sense, Virgin. Everybody can in the poor man. And then the same plastic bag you give me, you know what, me can't give back the same plastic bag in my pocket to put in my groceries. You tell me to bring the plastic bag in the supermarket. Well, me not understand that neither. Me work with my own plastic bag. Me recycle the plastic bag, Me not get in the dump, Me bring it back home, bring it back to you, and recycle it to get as much use out of it. And you tell me to bring them in your store, and you got your business name. These things don't make no sense, me Virgin. Somebody can somebody. You see what I mean? Somebody canning somebody. This thing has not been thought through. What you everything around us is plastic. Everything. The fishing nets, all those are plastics. I would not ever get into these things. But what I want to hear, Cindy, the cost of living and the tariff, what are your views and stuff like that? How we're gonna help those who really need the help, because a lot of programs, there are people who still really don't have it. You see what I mean? Who get less than $500 from Social Security. And if you're going to keep raising the prices going up, but this have nothing to do. This is just a world thing going on right now. And which in everybody all over stuff going to go up.
Well, I'm wondering if the government will be in a position to raise salaries. What do y'all think?
Well, they could drop their one and put them other drop up and those who making less. That could be done. They can, of course, they can take a 30% deduction, and then that money can go. Money always there, Money always there to do what they want to do with. So
They
it's
say, yeah,
choices. It's
there's a
all
saying
about
that say
choices.
government find the money to do the things that they really want to do.
Of course, it's
But
just choices.
they got it's just choices. I mean, they will have to find a way to offset the cost of the like milk and sugar and those kind of things, baby food, rice, those basic stuff that we need almost every
Okay,
day. But then,
yes. So when people ship like food stuff coming into the country, like barrels coming at Christmas time, and your barrel may come in, you get barrel for free or you pay $1 or something like that. But why food stuff got to charge? Even that should have been normal thing all the time. Why if you bring enough
right,
barrel with food and stuff, you shouldn't pay a standard fee, whatever is $100 or $50, just at the port charges. but not charging you duties and food stuff. You see what I mean? And these things. And plus, why are we paying all these high charges? On a regular, they would just pay too much taxes. Yes, you know, hear me talking about this card because I don't check out this VAT thing, you know. They charge the VAT, and if you allow it a letter for you for $100, you put 17% VAT on the $100. So you pay extra $17. But that don't make no sense. So everything you put VAT pan virgin, VAT pan, tax man, tax. Somebody can us. These people too smart, and that don't make no sense, me virgin. And you should not
And
burn.
it's
And
because
plus,
of
we
our
ain't
debt.
no, we
Banky.
never owe IMF no money because we never use the money that the IMF have put there. We never
No,
touch
we ain't
it.
talking about
They
IMF
just
Banky. We ain't talking IMF no. Banky. If you
no,
don't put
If you
on
say
the
what
VAT, and if you don't put on the
yes,
VAT, and if you don't charge these high custom charges and so, how will these guys pay for the rent for the boiler machine at wherever it is right now? How are they going to be able to do that? You got to understand. So how will they finish the hospital? How will they build that coming soon thing that you're talking about? That's what they said they want the taxes for. So if they waste your money, if the money is wasted and whatever, they have to find a way to get it back. And the way to get it back
yes,
is to tax the people. And so the people now has to get to understand when we do this is why I'm having these discussions, and this is why I like to bring it so clear to the people so that you need to
but yes, so
realize what you need to do as
yes,
the
but realize
masses.
this: if you put 200 million, 300 million to fund small businesses and educate the people to manage their business and all this different stuff, and invest in agriculture and renewable energy and all this different stuff, whatever it is, you mean creating the work. You see what I mean? You must spend the money, you know. And the more people, and if you're setting up businesses and they're successful, and agriculture, and you start to produce different products and all and shipping all this stuff, you're providing work, which means money gonna be spent. So we're collecting more taxes. If you're dropping your high custom duty and bringing in all these things, 85% and all this thing on a vehicle and all this stuff, you'll have more imports when into small business and tax break the same way because you're giving all these businesses $100 million tax break, brethren. That not need this we're talking about. You're giving all these businesses $100 million tax break, and small business not get $1 million tax break. So how you tax the small man all the time, so virgin for everything? Every
Yeah,
day the
those,
small man the tax. So the small man can't get 100. So the man who got a mechanic shop can't get each small business get $1 million tax break until you reach $1 million.
Banky,
Then you could start charging them duty again.
Banky,
Because
when
what? Yeah.
when when I give you these tax breaks, right? Um, and even if you get successful, you're not going to come and put $1 million in my campaign fund. So
So it's as about
I
he
am
has
not
about
going
giving
to.
back then. He has about kickbacks then.
Banky, Banky.
So that's what it's about kickbacks.
That's what I'm talking. I'm talking like our people. We sometimes tend to not want to look at that side of things,
So
but
it's
that
the
is
R is
just a
gonna be
part of the
benefiting then.
reality that we are dealing with. If I
So
am
it's just
going
gonna be
to,
benefiting
and that is
somehow.
why remember you used the premise the other day, right? And you were saying,
Yes.
when we were talking about the Tabasco company, and I was showing you,
Mhm.
you could take that same amount of money or land and invest in getting farmers to grow pepper to support Llewellyn's pepper business and all the other local pepper industry, so that their pepper product can be on the shelves to compete along with Tabasco out there. But
No
if we do
land there.
that,
No land there, yes. No land there for that.
no- but for me as a politician, I will get a better kickback and plus if I can say, well, I'm working with an international organization and we're bringing this international company to do business and so on and so forth. So we have to look at the same time, the reality is how these politicians see things. And that's why I'm telling you, when we talk about food security, we would be thinking of investing in our farmers and getting our farmers up to that level where they could sustain us. They're thinking, by them and putting on tariffs in America. We have to find a way now of getting these same things, but not in America. So we're going to import still, but we're going to import from Africa. So we ain't thinking of that same 200 million that you're talking about, because we importing $200 million worth of food. We should be thinking of putting that $200 million now in our economy, investing in our farmers and our agro processors, getting it up to that level. But then what that means for them is that they're going to empower our people, and then our people are going to be at a point where they can give our people a handout and tell them no, give them the $500 and tell them come vote for them. So this is the reality that we have to look at. When they say they want to empower our people, but the reality is they just want to win, because empowering our people would mean that they are not going to get the kind of support. And like I said again, the local people are not going to take up $1 million and put in the campaign fund. But the foreign investor may be able to convince the foreign investor, especially if maybe their law firm or whatever other businesses they may have to do with the investor, benefits them. And this is just some of the realities that we have to deal with. So I will let the investor come in and, because I could get $1 million under the table. I mean, let's be realistic. We know how politics run in St. Kitts and Nevis. Most of these big companies, I don't want to call them names, but the big names in St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of businesses. Most of these businesses, they put campaign funds in both sides. They fund both sides. So whoever win, they expect them to be to get back their return on investment. And that's part of the political game that we exist within. We sometimes don't like to have to speak up on it, but it is the reality that we live with.
So this is rather disheartening for me. So what matters most here now is winning election and staying in power, as opposed to empowering our people, and that will lead to economic development holistically. So we are saying that you go into to government, or you run you become a politician and you run for a party just to go in there for kickbacks and to enrich yourself rather than to help the people of the country. This is so sad. This is just so
Well,
sad.
well,
And if this
one of
way we
one of
have
the
gotten
caller,
that if this is what is happening, it's not a good sign.
well, the caller that called in, he spoke about the MSR and the CBI and so on. Now, last week I listened to a podcast from Patches, and he had on this guy who said to be
Yes.
um well I let me say he seeks to find money launderers. He was at one point a cook, and he eventually, because he admitted that he was on that side, and then he spent some time in prison. Since he came out, he said he set his life towards finding corrupt people who are whatever. Anyway, though, I'm coming to this because there was a lot of allegations that were put forward and a lot of things that were said in relations to the program and so on. I have not heard anybody so far seek to sue him or sue the public, the radio station or the medium that presented the information. Now, my thing is, a lot of money was reportedly made via the CBI. More than enough for us to not be in the situation that we are in as a people. And so this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying that, and when we could see that there is not so much an interest in uplifting the people as much as it is to win an election, because they
Yeah.
prefer to use it to give you a handout or to give you a little dividend or whatever it is that they say it is, when nothing is wrong with the dividend, but that dividend should have been a lot more based on the funding that would have been brought in through that industry. And that industry was set up to empower the people. It is using the people's asset to develop the people. Now, a lot of the monies now in recent times with the MSR saga, there was a case that was brought forward in terms of seeking to get back some monies from passports that was undersold. Now, seemingly based on the case that was presented by MSR, that quest was pushed forward. And so there's a quest to get back the funds for those transactions that were in the MSR case. Well, what about the other thousands of passports that were signed and that is alleged that is out there that were undersold and so on? Why is that not also being sought after if that is the case? Why is it that it is not pushed for us to get back that money, and that is monies that could more than propel our industry, even say the agro industry, because $200 million out of some billions of dollars that were made through the CBI should be not strange to put into developing our agro industry. Now, these are some of the scenarios that we do have to look at and address. Now, a lot of people might say the man, he was not deemed worthy to be on the conversation because he was a crook and he was a criminal. And why is it that we are always seeking to find these criminal characters and so on to to come forward? There is that argument and so on, but I am a kind of person that I love to listen to everybody and I give people the benefit of the doubt. Even if somebody would have done something in the past, Cindy, you say you're from the Christian side and so. Saul used to persecute Christians, and Saul turned out to be one of the biggest and most critical figure in the Bible. So if we are going to think like that, we still have to put in that. Right. So my thing is, even though people might have done things in the past, I am not going to just hold them like that. However, in relation to our CBI and doing businesses and so on, there is something that's called due diligence, and we should be up to date with that so that we should be able to spot some of these characters when they're coming in and stop them from the beginning. So, I think I will just stay here with that topic for now, and then you guys can comment on it.
Our politicians need to understand that it's not about getting richer, it's about service to the people, looking after them, looking after your country. I wish we would just, if we only think like that, that we are not here, like I said, forever, then it would not be about winning an election more so than in the holistic development of our people. And it is just so sad that we always think that we have to be in government forever. That will create a problem because you're going to reach to the point that you want to almost do any and everything to stay there. Just say, that you're given an amount of time and you're going to serve to the best of your ability, as I mentioned before. Do not get greedy, do not get carried away, and, have some integrity. There must be some integrity in your dealing and with people, and not because you find yourself. They say power corrupts, but don't allow that to corrupt you. I mean, you still have to stand your ground and have some principles in how you're dealing. And I wouldn't want to think that. I used to be so proud of my country. I used to speak so well of it. I used to boast about it, how honest of people we are, how hardworking. My grandmother always speak to me about being contented. I'm not saying that you must not have ambition, but if you're content in what you have, there's no need to get greedy and there's no need to become corrupt in order to get more. And then you can focus on are we want to do should we want to say that the politicians of old or the leaders of old were more sincere in dealing and looking after our lands than the present leaders? I really would not want to think that. So I'm still thinking that there's hope and that we can become better people in the when it comes to governance.
Yeah, so one of the things that we need to change going forward is to have government that is inclusive, that always come to the people when it come to your vote and certain things. You understand? Certain decision, you always got to always have a government that is inclusive. The government that we have here is not inclusive. They don't ask questions. They just do what they want and come for, and when you agitate, then they come and answer and stuff like that. You need to have government that the citizens, if you're gonna make certain things, you come to the people and they vote and referendum on certain things. I believe in these things.
Yeah,
You
Banky,
understand?
the
Let them
people
make,
have to
let them
demand
make
that,
the
Banky.
decision. Huh?
We
What
have
you
to
say?
demand that. We have
Well,
to
that's the
get,
whole point. That's what I'm saying.
we as a people have to get to that point where we begin to hold these elected officials accountable. So what we're talking about, you come to me with a manifesto, because see, this is what we're talking about, Cindy. This is the reality. 4 years, no, okay. We hire them, give them a job, and I find politicians and our electoral system is one of the most interesting, because you hire some people, give them a job, but you can't turn them away so easy. You either have to have a vote and no confidence, or have an election to get them out. But it's 5 years in the far. So they're guaranteed after they come to you, and that is why you find around the fourth year, that is when they remember that is you who gave them a job. And that is
Yes,
when
son.
they
Have a
start to
next
cut
call
more.
coming. Have a call coming in there. Hold the point. Let me.
Yes.
Carlo, good evening.
Yes, man. Let me get back to you, man. Yeah, good evening again, man. Yeah, I like this discussion tonight, man. Very on point. You know, the people in the federation, they really need to tune in to this topic show. And
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, the people really need to be tuning in to this topic show, the topics,
Yes.
so they can, keep up with the information. I'm happy Yasson mentioned that gentleman that was on the Patchy show last week there. Because that was a guy who got a lot of knowledge about the inner workings of these corrupt behaviors. And one of the things that struck me, right, is he said that in these islands in the Caribbean, he pointed out Dominica and St. Kitts and Nevis in the mix. The governments, they stay corrupted, and they use these. He was saying that it seems like in St. Kitts, Nevis, and Dominica, they use that CBI money and funnel their campaigns and stuff like that. But the people don't know these things. But people don't have no idea what's going on in their own islands. Believe that. The amount of money that came in, you guys don't have any idea of how much money came into Bastille. I'm going off the fundamentals, what the guest started talking about. In my mind, our parents didn't raise us like this.
No.
I don't
No,
understand
not at all.
I don't understand how we got
Not
so
at all.
corrupted in leave us.
Not at all. No, we were not raised like this.
Citizens and corruption among our leaders.
Yes.
This stuff been going on for years. Since the inception of the CBI program, the corruption started. Another leader come in, he put the corruption on steroids. And then another leader come in, he put the corruption on fentanyl. It's insane what's going on in St. Kitts and Nevis, man. All the politicians that's been involved with the CBI program all need to replace and go home. We need brand new representatives in St. Kitts and Nevis, and we need independent-minded persons to come forward, because what I see from out here, the party politics is mashing up the place. Persons, let me go directly to this government that's in right now. They keep referencing the previous administration about all those scandals. But this scandal with this MSR, in my mind, the biggest scandal I've heard since I've been following this situation, this political affairs of St. Nivas. The place is a mess. Who is going to rise above the ashes and change the status quo? The party politics, yes, it's mashing up the place, and persons based on the parties they're affiliated with, when they see their parties going wrong, they don't like to correct them or speak up. They keep quiet, and they want to say that they're neutral, and some of them, they're barking in defense of their party and their governments. But guess what? Behind the scenes, all manner of evil and all manner of wrong is being done. And St. Nevis need a transformation. The place shouldn't continue like how it is going right now. It possibly need a big protest. It need a national outcry to stamp out this corruption. Otherwise, the status quo remains. You know, this is what I'm seeing from out here. We need new leaders. We need independent-minded persons. And I hate to see when persons are on the radio. No matter what you say, you might give them some good ideas or some good, give them some good ideas. And persons come behind you and try to, take away the good ideas you put forward. They want to discredit you. Instead, they take the ideas and run with it to improve their situation or their party. Like one time I made a comment on the live chat, and we need to restructure. Somebody came behind. So you're always saying a lot of stuff, but you ain't saying nothing. Well, people reconstruct every day in this life that we live in. You in your house, you got to rearrange yourself, especially when it comes to the financial problems. Companies, entities, they restructure every day. So if you can't take somebody's positive input, I don't see where we're going as a federation. We're not that mature. St. Nevis is a young society in terms of independence or whatever, but we're not really growing. We're not growing. We're not becoming mature. Our politicians now, they're not mature. You see how Team Unity implode. I took the trip down to St. Nevis in 2015, and when I came into Bastille, the place was like carnival, right? I witnessed after Team Unity got swearing, and they came over to Nevis, right in front of the Treasury and that Williams, right there by the small square there in front of the Williams shop. It was electrifying. And to see that the people mobilized like that to move Douglas, one man, in my mind, it didn't even look like they was trying to move labor. They was looking like they was trying to move Douglas. They succeeded, and then they imploded. And then what? From St. Nevis, we're back to square one. The place is in a political crisis. And if the next election comes up and these politicians don't do right and go up, they might have chaos in Bastille when the results come out. I hope when the results come out, it's a clear path to forming the new government. Because if not, there's going to be some chaos in Bastille. But I wish St. Nevis the best going forward. And the man Banky, I wish you the best going forward, bro. You're very qualified to lead in the district you're going up for, because you're a successful farmer, and undoubtedly, bro, you can take that into the political arena and be successful as well. But watch your back and doing the good works, man. You guys have a good night.
I appreciate it, Carla. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Thanks a lot, Carla. Banky,
Yes.
I must say that Janet, Cindy, whichever one, you would have brought some interesting topics to the fore, which really had us, it slipped us into a few different areas, but all, connected to
Yes, sir.
the main topic, because it's all about the betterment for Nivisions. We are getting closer to wrap up time. There were there are a couple other topics I had, in mind, but I'll drop this one in, and then we will wrap up on the last topic. So we would probably discuss this a little bit, and then get in on the last part of the topic. Oops.
A pillar that supports America's global dominance. If Donald Trump had known this would happen, he would never have started the tariff war. Today, China has decided to bring one of America's biggest companies, Boeing, to its knees. Boeing, one of the world's leading aircraft manufacturers, has just lost its biggest customer after the U.S., China. China had placed orders with Boeing, and the planes were ready for delivery. But now China has refused to accept any aircraft from Boeing. Not only that, but China is also pushing forward with its own aircraft manufacturing and has nearly finalized its own planes. Boeing even pressured China to increase purchases, hoping to double its sales before China's own planes entered the market. But China is now turning to European aircraft manufacturers and plans to bankrupt Boeing by pulling away the largest market outside of America. This blow has caused Boeing stock prices to crash in the market. Boeing CEOs have contacted Trump, worried that their company is on the verge of collapse. Not just China, other countries too, affected by U.S. tariffs, are following suit and canceling orders. Where China moves, the world follows. Now China is reaching out to European rivals, buying aircraft from them. When China orders, the rest of the world sees it as a green signal to do the same. This is a global shift. China is also ending imports of American beef, another billion-dollar blow. Instead, they are turning to Australia, whose beef industry is delighted with the new deal. China didn't wait to negotiate. They simply shifted their orders. China had fully prepared the aircraft deliveries with Boeing, but after being tariffed, they canceled everything. Go elsewhere. There are two types of trade deals: individual and state to state. Rare earth elements, for example, are traded state to state. China exports about $600 billion worth of these materials. It's now turning state-level deals into political statements. Soon, China may stop buying iPhones. At first, Trump imposed restrictions on Apple, then lifted them, then reimposed tariffs. Now he wants to lower them again. But the damage is done. China is making strategic moves to become fully independent. Look at Iran. Despite sanctions, they build their own cars, weapons, and systems. China is investing over $450 billion in Iran. Iran has reached a point where even with global sanctions, it thrives with Chinese and Russian support. America asked Iran to transfer its enriched uranium to Russia as part of the nuclear deal. Iran refused, saying, "How can we trust you won't back out tomorrow? We'll keep it here." This shook Trump. He thought Russia would help pressure Iran, but Iran boldly said no. Alliances shift quickly. Yesterday's friend could be tomorrow's enemy. Trump underestimated the global reaction. Europe once opposed China. Now they're doing business with China instead of the U.S. The beef industry is shifting to Australia. China is even talking to Yemen for new product imports. China's goal is to destroy America's corporations one by one, a strategy of death by 1,000 cuts. Next is the microchip industry. China is investing in AI and chip manufacturing. And the day they become fully self-reliant in chip production, American chip companies worth trillions will collapse. China will produce chips 70% cheaper with double the quality. China has already completed aircraft prototypes to compete with Boeing. Now they plan to export globally. They're telling Europe, "We're offering you hundreds of billions in business. What more do you want?" The $150 billion China once spent on American imports is now being redirected to other countries. China even aims to increase this to $200 to $300 billion, uplifting economies worldwide and getting allies in the process. Ultimately, China's economic plan is to make its own people richer, increase internal demand, and then buy globally. It has already lifted 900 million people out of poverty. A richer China means a stronger market, and that means more global buying power. In conclusion, China has made a clear decision to cripple America's corporations one by one. Boeing is just the beginning. Once a customer is lost, even removing tariffs won't help. And China knows if they back down now, America won't spare them later. So China is creating new sellers and buyers, expanding trade, and offering huge business to countries ready to work with them. Rare earth elements were the first strike. Boeing is the second. The final collapse? Yet to come.
So Quite an interesting bit of international information there, and these are some of the pushbacks as a result of the tariffs that are being placed and the tariff war, the economic wars, we want to put it, that's taking place. Now, a lot of times, sometimes when we hear these things, people tend to say, oh, this is just happening out there in the world. You know, what I got to do with us? Um, a lot of these things have to do with us. It also means to Banky that with what is going on, it also puts some of us in the smaller islands and in outside territories also, we might be positioned to some extent to benefit to some extent from some of these issues, because then we now can maybe find ways of trading directly with some of these, you know, whether it's China, India, Australia, and some of these other places, and see the government is now looking to trade with Africa. So there are some of these possibilities, bearing in mind that many still seek to listen to America. And if America now starts to get offended by us not using them as main trade partners, and Europe and so on, what will be the implications for us if we seek to make some of those changes? So you could weigh in, take a minute, each one of you guys, and weigh in on that, and then we wrap up with the last topic.
To be honest, I am still what must I say, looking on to see what will really happen. I think Trump made a hasty decision with those tariffs, and I want to see if he's not going to humble himself and back down in some cases. And so I am still giving it a little bit more time to see what will really take place. I hear what China is doing, but I know a lot of persons are not fan of America in some regards, and they think that America is a bully. But I must say, a lot of the support that we have had in terms of the UN, UNESCO, most of the funding still come from America as opposed to China, right? So I'm looking at the general, they have their faults and failures, but in terms of giving back to the worldwide community, I still think America was best at it than most of these other nations, right?
When you look at this, go ahead, Cindy.
I'm not really like I don't. Maybe I should not say that, but I value people who give back. I like people who at least give back. It shouldn't be business only oriented. It should also be about thinking about other people and their existence and how they, and America has been good at that in spite of their faults and failures, in my opinion, more so than China.
You see what's going on here, Yasan, is about male testosterone, egos. You understand? That's what it's all. Who is the superpower? And the Asian man now back down because he is the one who developed manufacturing in large amount. Nobody can beat him on that, in a sense. You see what I mean? And cost of labor, everything is economics. America, people now work for $1 US a day. It never happen. So whether they want, that's why they move out of America first and shut down all the auto industry in Michigan, in Detroit, and in places they went overseas and cripple the black community, because Detroit, all the communities were black communities, you know. In Detroit, Michigan, when Ford and all them automakers shut them down and send their business overseas to cripple the black community. These were strategically done. Now, years later, decades later now, them are ball blood. The same trainer that send they move the companies overseas, the same Nike that we love to wear and Reebok and all these different designer clothes. What did they make? Over in China for cheap labor, cost maybe
Because
$1
of
to
the
make a
cheap
pant or
labor,
cent.
yeah. No, it's
And then charge us. That's what it is. You see what I mean? And they've been canning us all the years, laughing after us, all the
right.
perfume, all of this, all of that, and all them the LeBron James and all of this, whatever it is. And China they make and they pour and made in America.
Now it's
They're not the
coming.
power made in
So they
China.
empower China. They empower China because of the cheap labor. And now it's coming back to bite them. But
America,
The
China
empower.
is 10. China.
I am kind of sorry. I am kind of sorry that this topic kind of came up almost at the end here, because there are lots of ways to look at it. China China was treated by America and the Europe and so on like how they treat
Mhm.
Cuba. It's just that
Yes.
China
They
was able
invested in
to use.
technology. They
Yes,
invested in their
they
own,
invested in the
educated the
youth, they
people,
invested in the
everything.
technology and so on, and they were able to rise up. Now,
That's
some
it.
may argue, some may argue about the governance structure, that it is communist and so
Yes.
on, and nobody voting for them and so forth. But when you look at the reality, still, sorry, they were forced to do what they had to do to help to get their people where they are today. Over all of these years, they played the strategy of, when America them come with cheap labor, they take the cheap labor, yes, but at the same time they learn whatever techniques and skills and scientific approaches and so on, and then they seek to better them or add to it and create their own. And so they're able now, long after now, to be able to be in that position now where they can stand up. And that's one of the things that they were saying as well, that even though America is seeking to put on these tariffs and so on, they were doing what they were doing without America anyway. So they
Hmm.
could just continue to do whatever, and they don't even have to push back because they're accustomed to be resilient. But
That,
like I said, that's a
I
um,
am a
it would have
humanitarian,
been nice.
Shai, and I am not all about. It's not all business for me. I'm making money. I am also a humanitarian, and how we care. It matters to me how people are being treated.
Yeah, but
I also care about
Cindy,
how people are being
that's one of the reasons.
treated.
That's one of the reasons why I think we would really need some more time to delve into this
We need
conversation,
some more
because
time, of course. Yes,
yeah,
yes, that is
because
so true.
America is not quite the humanitarians that they
No, I'm
purport
talking in regard
purport
to
themselves to be.
China. I'm talking in regard to China now and how they treat some of their people. I mean, we have Chinese that come here and they're basically slaves. They work in the supermarket and so on, but they're not being paid and they're treated badly. So I'm also looking at that in the
Well,
in the
we may look at
money
it
or to,
that way, but you have to be able to, when you're looking at these things, sometimes um look at the cultural perspective. You also have to look at their culture, their traditions, where they come from. So sometimes how we may
point
look at things
taken.
is because of how our society is, and we are coming from a democratic society and a democratic structure. But when you look into their structure, what you may consider as bad because you're coming from a democracy, to them it's the norm, you know,
And some
because
of
of
the
the
when
way
they
their
come out of
society
But when they come out,
is
when some
structured.
of these Chinese come out of China and they live among us and they see they understand democracy, I don't think they feel good about how they're being treated and how they're being enslaved. And I don't support those kind of behavior
Well,
at all.
that's why some of them stay around, because also remember there was a point where you could have only had one child in China, so some of them stayed up because they want to be able to expand their families and so on, and have um, people to be able to take on continue their legacy and so on. So there's all of these different little factors.
yeah, but yeah, son.
Um,
But if
hey,
you have people coming here and working in the supermarket, and they're supposed to register and pay social security and all these things, so the government will know if these people are working and getting paid, they're just being enslaved and not get. You see what I mean? If these things, if the labor
well,
department
see,
is followed up,
it
they're
should
working. You see,
it
they're
should.
working, and they should
So
show
that
that
is
they're
where
getting the paying into the social security and all these
Yes.
different stuff. These things should be
So
shown.
that is where the agencies in the government should be playing their roles. A lot of things, and so when we talk about government and governance as well, a lot of these areas as well that they should be dealing with and are not dealing with, we need to address as well, because there's the other issue where what they call it, where there's people check the prices in the supermarket and so on, consumer affairs and so on. Um,
Yes, yes.
I'm not sure how effective some of these organizations are in terms of monitoring the markup and so on, because okay, there's certain things
Price
set in
control. Yeah.
stone when it comes to customs. When these people bring in things and they're selling, sometimes the markup is supposed to be set at 35%, but then when you go in the stores and so on, and you would see that the markup is a lot more than 35%, who really go back to check these things and, you know, really deal with these issues. So there are a lot of these things. Banky, we already over time, but I really didn't want to finish without addressing this topic, especially too, because you know, I really think we should be paying some tribute to Daddy Whipstick, you know, who would have passed, you know. I don't know if you know him, Cindy, but that's the virgin who used to sell
By
incense and
the
stuff, and right there
supermarket.
by William.
Yeah, I know him.
Right,
Pleasant man.
right.
Yeah.
Great elder. You know, Scooby, enough respect and my condolences, because that's the father for Scooby. Kevin Barrett,
Oh,
who
my
is the PF.
condolences. Right.
Stedward Pemberton, and I think I know for sure Melissa Pemberton as well. Those are the three children that I know of alive still. I don't know of any others, but my condolences go out to her. No, I'm sorry, to the family, him and his family.
Family, my
Now,
condolences as well.
Rastafari, Banky, is a topic that I am seeking to bring to the fore right now, because it is Easter is celebrated around this time. However, in the Caribbean, it was also a significant time for Rastafari, as it in 1966, that was when Haile Selassie visited the Caribbean, and it was a visit that was from around the 18th of April until about the 24th or 25th thereabout. He visited Haiti, he visited Trinidad and Tobago, he visited Barbados, and he also visited Jamaica. Most times we hear about the Jamaican visit, and I think mostly because there was a very vibrant Rastafari community in Jamaica at the time, and they made a spectacle at the event. You know, they actually were at the tarmac, and there was a real, you know, huge event. You know, Rastafari took over, you know, when Haile Selassie got there. Now, I'm bringing this on the backdrop also of the fact that 3 years prior, and this is one of the reasons why this event was so significant for Rastafari. 3 years before 1966, in Jamaica, you would have had what was considered the Coral Garden massacre, where the prime minister, the premier of Jamaica then, would have made a decree to bring in, round up all Rastafari, wherever they be, bring them in, and if the prison can't hold them, let the rest go to the morgue. Now, this is part of the struggle that Rastafari was going through in 1963. You would have had also, somewhere around that time as well, the Dread Act in Dominica, where you could have shoot a Rastaman on sight. You could have seen a Rastaman. He didn't have to be guilty of anything. You could have just met a Rasta, and as long as he had locks. Well, he had the lock side, and then he also had beard. Beard was also something that was fought against vehemently in our society. So even if you didn't have locks and you just had a beard, you were also put into that category as Rasta, and the community would also play a role in helping the police. And this is one of the reasons too why I always say to people that when we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, and we say that the transatlantic slave trade was one of the, what they say is the worst atrocities meted out to mankind, I beg to differ. I say it is the treatment meted out to Rastafari. And my rationale for that is the fact that these people who went through the transatlantic slave trade were the ones who were some of the greatest oppressors of Rastafari. It wasn't the white people, it wasn't the Europeans, it wasn't the Caucasians who were oppressing and suppressing Rastafari. It was our own people who already went through that struggle, who were helping the police and the authorities to fight us, because, and they used cannabis as a scapegoat to criminalize us, but it wasn't cannabis. the main reason why they were fighting us is because we opposed adhering to King Charles or Queen Elizabeth and their monarchy. We said that we look to Haile Selassie and Africa and Ethiopia for our monarchy and our king. And Leonard Howell started he was the one given the credence for starting that movement at Pinnacle, and that in itself is a whole story. Now, I'm putting this backdrop because in 1963, when Rastafari was rounded up, it was sort of like taboo to be a Rastafari. So all those who maintained Rastafari had to go to the hills in Dominica and so on. So most of the Rastafari had to walk all the back path and so on and were not accepted by society. In 1966, when Haile Selassie visited the Caribbean, that was very significant for the Rastafari community because that caused them now to be able to come out, because all the time about this king and so on, and now the debate in the Caribbean was now Rastafari God come, Rastafari king now come to the Caribbean. So now they really have a king, they really see who this individual that Rastafari revered so much. And thus, because he visited and gave that sort of strength, many of the Rastafari who was in hiding were able to come out in their numbers at that event. After he left, they started to try to round up the Rastafari community again. Now, I am saying that to show people the struggle that we have been going through over the years. Many of the things that we that we attribute today and that we can give thanks for today have been maintained over the years as a result of Rastafari. We can talk to African Liberation Day. If it wasn't for if it wasn't for Rastafari, we wouldn't even be hearing about that. We can talk about the celebration of emancipation, because, for example, even in St. Kitts and Nevis, in emancipation is celebrated in the form of some walk up and drink rum. We don't use that day in a significant way to highlight the significance of emancipation. However, that is something that is revered by Rastafari. We have in St. Kitts, you have the Buckley's uprising. They celebrated, I think, 90 years. And if it wasn't for Rastafari celebrating and commemorating that over the years, we would have had no remembrance, so to speak, of that event. And that event was so powerful that it is not just significant for St. Kitts and Nevis, it is very significant for the region, because it is after that uprising, it sparked uprisings throughout the entire Caribbean region. You have cannabis. We just recently see that they had a huge event in Antigua celebrating the 420, and we see that in Antigua, Rastafari would have been given such credence and respect that the Prime Minister would have invested in getting an excavator for the Rastafari community, along with other tools and equipment for them to embolden themselves and empower themselves in the agricultural sector and the cannabis sector as well. If it wasn't for Rastafari, who would have been championing the cause for cannabis over all of these years and face all the persecution and ridicule and lockup and even being killed in some cases. Now today, we have a system where those who vehemently fought cannabis are now putting themselves in the position to be the beneficiaries of the cannabis industry by seeking to zoom in on the medical cannabis and leave recreational and spiritual or religious cannabis in a corner. However, it is people like Daddy Whipstick who I met actually in St. Croix. I didn't meet him in Nevis. He used to live in talk about the history. I didn't even know that he was a musician with the steel pan. I saw an article that was done by Stevenson Manners that spoke to his activities in this steel pan orchestra that actually represented
rebels in
in America.
rebels.
It was sponsored by Bank of America. and they were able to travel all over the world and represent St. Kitts and Nevis. I met Abjo in St. Croix and Sunny Isles, where my aunt
Yes,
used
in
to
the park.
sell like mangoes and guinea and all of
Mm-hmm.
these things on the side of the road. And he was doing that
Yes,
along with Swanee. I met Swanee there as well.
yes.
Swanee with Swanee's bagging center with the t-shirt
Printing.
printing and so on. And this was back in the 90s. That's when I met
Yes.
them. And I learned that they were from Nevis and so on. And I just felt proud to know that, we had Nevisians, out there representing and, doing the thing in business and so forth. When he came back to Nevis, Whipstick was always one of the elders that I could go to and just sit down and reason. There was never a dull moment when I go to visit Daddy Whipstick. Always have some interesting reasoning and some sort of positive, uplifting, conversation, something to empower you, something to, make you do a little bit more research. He was one who helped to keep Rastafari legacy alive, because for all these years he had this Rastafari shop. He would go downtown and do a little hustling as well, but Emily's store. You could always go there and get some Rasta paraphernalia, get some, Marcus Garvey books, get some Afro-conscious, spiritual uplifting things and so on. And it's people like these who sometimes make their contributions, but because of how the system fought Rastafari over the years, it was only in more recent times, people begin to get a little bit more open to Rastafari and, support them and so on. But the struggle was on and it is still there. I said that people are a little bit more open, but there's still that remnant of people who still fight Rastafari and still would not want to have Rastafari, a part of their business or their venture and things like that. This is where we are coming from. And I want to encourage our people to, look out for the Rastafari community. I want the Rastafari community as well too to spend some more time and pay tribute to the elders within the faith too, who would have carried on the struggle over all these years. I also want to take this time, Banky, to encourage the government at this time to really put on some sort of moratorium and do some things exclusive for Rastafari. When it comes to cannabis and Rastafari, I don't think Rastafari should have to do nothing. No license, no nothing. For all the persecution, and don't tell me that the Rastafari should register as no religious group either. Because in all Rastafari are part of any religious sect or organization.
Yes, sir. We're gonna have
You're
to wrap up.
Rasta?
We're not going to do it today. We have to wrap up and continue this
Yeah,
conversation. Because you're not
you're
going to do it.
Rasta? You just Rasta, right? And deal with it. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up. I just wanted to get in that section in terms of the struggle of Rastafari and the fact that it was done around this time, and it is also timely with the passing of Elder Abjo, and I want to send some condolences to his family. I want to say thank you, Cindy. I think your contribution this evening was well received. Like I said, you were able to keep us on the ball with that topic swayed and swung into a number of different areas that were very timely, and we do look forward to having this discussion next week, Tuesday. Friday, we will have another edition of Everything Agriculture, and we look forward to also have some feminine energy there, as we are supposed to have Miss Jihan Williams Knight, the chair of the Cannabis Authority, and she will be on the same day the Cannabis Authority should be opening on St. Kitts. So on the 25th, the Cannabis Authority should be opening on St. Kitts, and we have organized with her to be on for 1 hour to update us on what's going on with the medical cannabis industry, and I guess we'll find out more about the office operations and what is already available, what we can and cannot do, and all that. And then Banky, we would eventually have to get in touch with Mr. Jeffrey Hanley, who I understand is the Minister of Ecclesiastic Affairs, and find out what is happening with the recreational and religious side of the cannabis decriminalization and St. Kitts and Nevis. With that said, Banky, I want to say thank you as well for being a part of the discussion this evening. I want to say thank you to all those who would have participated, whether via calls or making your comments. We were able to get through to some of the comments on YouTube and also those on Facebook. We look forward to engaging with you next week, Tuesday. And until Friday, enough love. Ira and the rest of the Real Entertainment team, want to say thank you all. I mean, this team, you guys really, really go the extra mile to make this happen. A lot of people don't know what happens behind the scenes. But, this team of Nivisions, I must say, Nivisions, are continuing to contribute to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm really honored to get to be a part of this, output, and we look forward to continue doing such. So, I ran the team. Enough love, everybody. Until Friday.
I be having conversations with myself because I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could have had somebody else choose who instead. I be having conversations with myself because I feel like I have nobody to talk to. You tried to convince me it was all in my